With just one love tap from Saitama, how the hell did Genos end up with a concussion? What on earth is going on? It all started when Saitama was chilling at home watching TV while his disciple, Genos, was diligently washing dishes. Having snacks while watching TV is truly the peak of life, guys, but Saitama was a bit nervous, fearing that if he gripped the bag too hard, the snacks would be crushed. Secondly, Genos discovered that his master had accidentally bought a bag of snacks with superhero images on them. While chatting with Genos, Saitama accidentally ripped the bag wide open, sending snacks flying everywhere. It was time to test the speed of the One Punch Man's hands. In a heartbeat, Saitama gathered almost all the snacks back into the bag. Thinking he was about to make a clean sweep of the last few pieces, things went south. Saitama accidentally slapped Genos lightly across the face. It was just a gentle tap, but the poor boy's face was smashed to a pulp. The force must have been equivalent to a tank slamming into his face. After getting back up, Genos suddenly lost all his memories. The young man turned into a completely different person, transforming into a shy, timid maiden with a temperamental personality, even calling his master Baldy to his face. When he heard Saitama call him his disciple, Genos' emotions exploded like a blood vessel bursting, saying he could finish drawing Saitama's bald face in just 20 seconds. Just then, the doorbell rang, and Genos immediately took an offensive stance as if an enemy had arrived. It turned out to be that national crush, Fubuki. Fearing his beloved Fubuki might get hurt, Saitama used his body to take the full force of Genos' lethal move. Seeing this incredibly cinematic scene, Fubuki's face went blank, like, wait, what is even happening? Seeing a beautiful girl at the house, Genos got overexcited, froze Fubuki, and invited her to play with him. Naturally, Fubuki politely declined. After understanding the situation, Fubuki went, so that's how it is. She immediately pulled out her phone to call her entire group, and the Fubuki group aggressively swarmed in. After Fubuki left, Genos sensed a massive source of energy nearby. His body automatically lunged toward it, but a hellish green tornado forced Genos back. That's right, it was the Fubuki group's retaliation. It turned out Fubuki wanted to recruit Genos into her group. She kept pestering him, forcing Genos to use his core reactor to make a quick escape. Wandering the streets, Genos was utterly confused, unable to remember who he was. Suddenly, a piercing scream rang out. A demon-level monster appeared in the crowd, seeking revenge on humanity for abandoning it. People recognized Genos as an S-class hero and felt safe enough to leave. Now, all the monster's hatred was aimed at Genos. However, a bold idea popped into Genos' head: lure the monster to Fubuki's place to borrow a sword to kill. The monster attacked and pinned Genos down. For a moment, Genos used all his strength to escape, but his battery was severely depleted. The monster attacked again, and a massive cyclone engulfed him. After taking a series of combo attacks, Genos' combat system was activated. A lethal blow lunged forward, and it seemed he finally remembered who he was. As the smoke cleared, an enlightened Genos appeared right behind the monster, leaving it utterly stunned. A giant punch swung toward Genos, but he blocked it as easily as eating candy. With one incineration cannon blast, the monster vanished in a sea of flames. Back at home, Genos repeatedly apologized to his master and even brought back some forest specialties. Saitama asked Genos what happened, and his answer made the One Punch Man question his own existence. What is Speedo Sound Sonic's nightmare? Ever since being humiliated by Saitama, Sonic has been having constant nightmares where Saitama's silhouette repeats like an endless loop. One punch from Saitama left a massive psychological scar on Sonic. To defeat Saitama, Sonic went deep into the forest to train, mastering ultimate martial arts techniques. Sonic's obsession even turned into an extreme fear of Saitama. In his mind, he always felt he was just one step away, yet countless failures caused Sonic to lose faith in life. No matter what he was doing, Saitama's image would pop back into his head. The only person who kept him company and supported him was an old man in a similar situation. They met a few years ago and became kindred spirits. Whenever Sonic failed, the old man would act like a kind father, bandaging his wounds. This old man was actually a seasoned hunter, but his circumstances were somewhat like Sonic's. He had also tasted failure. By the fire, the old man began to tell his story. Years ago, during a blizzard on a mountain while hunting, he encountered his arch-nemesis. The scar on his arm was a mark from that battle. He almost kicked the bucket that time, but luckily he survived. Since that day, every time he picked up a gun, his hands would shake uncontrollably. That's right, even hunters know fear. There are enemies that cannot be overcome. Only by facing your own fear can you conquer it. The old man's words were like an epiphany for Sonic. He realized that only through grueling hard work would he have a chance to surpass Saitama. Sonic began a process of limitless training. The silence was broken by a fleeing wild boar. Sonic saved it in an instant, lunging straight at a giant monster. Wasn't this the training partner he was looking for? But the moment he was about to land, Sonic saw Saitama's silhouette again. he broke into a cold sweat. Sonic continued his attack with a powerful wind blade kick. If he failed this time, he'd have no dignity left. He decided to go all in to face his fear. Indeed, the ultimate goal was to finally give that Baldy a piece of his mind. Seconds later, Sonic sheathed his blade, and a giant snake was cut in half. Looks like there's a top-tier snack for tonight's drinks. After this battle, Sonic even acquired a pet to follow him, naming it Little Inosuke. Just like that, Sonic plunged into a process of training day and night. As long as he could defeat Saitama, he would be willing even if his bones were crushed and his flesh torn. After a long period of arduous training, Sonic decided to go find the bald guy to check the VAR. This time, he told himself he would definitely not lose. Just as he was about to leave, Sonic suddenly heard, wait, no, it wasn't Saitama. The silence of the forest was broken by the lifelong enemy of the old hunter from years ago, a giant bear. The bear rushed forward, the old man fired rapidly, but it was to no avail, forcing him to retreat into his house. Once again, he failed. At that critical moment, One Punch Man Saitama happened to pass by. Saitama's inner thoughts at that moment surged, oh, there's food for tonight. Things are getting intense. The S-class hero Zombie Man, who possesses an immortal body, was suddenly assassinated. What kind of hostile force could be so brutal? Immediately, the S-class heroes were summoned to witness the drama and analyze the situation. It turns out that a few days ago, after successfully repelling the alien spaceship, the Hero Association went big and rewarded the top-tier heroes with a 3-day vacation at a hot spring. Being rich is truly something else. Old Man Bang was enjoying a soak, while Atomic Samurai started mocking Genos, saying, hey, you're a cyborg and you're taking a hot bath? Watch out for a short circuit, pal. Meanwhile, our One Punch Man Saitama had no shame at all, casually bathing in the nude. When it came to discussing their contributions, the heroes argued until they were red in the face. In the women's bath, the lowly Tatsumaki overheard them and curled her lip in contempt. So noisy. I can carry the whole team by myself. They talk too much. It seems Tatsumaki respects no one. That evening, a lavish feast was laid out, with S-class heroes packing the table. Bang took a sip and praised it highly, while nearby, Puri Puri Prisoner started dancing wildly with his usual comedic flair. In such a happy setting, a crisis occurred. After the party, Zombie Man was found dead. Child Emperor, with his famous detective brain, began to analyze the situation because the cuts on Zombie Man were too clean. Child Emperor immediately pointed the finger at Atomic Samurai. But in the face of suspicion, Bang stepped up as a witness, saying Atomic Samurai hadn't moved an inch from his seat all night. The suspect was cleared. King and several others also had alibis. Child Emperor frowned in thought. Suddenly, Super Alloy Darkshine remembered that Puri Puri seemed very interested in Zombie Man, but that guy is only interested in handsome men. A comment from Child Emperor dealt lethal damage. Among us, it seems you're the only one with a criminal record, right? Therefore, your credibility is the lowest. Ostracized by everyone, Puri Puri's eyes turned towards Saitama. He remembered a joke the bald guy made, if I punched you with all my might, would I be able to kill you? It turns out our One Punch Man was just curious about Zombie Man's immortality. Seeing Child Emperor suspecting his master, Genos immediately switched to protective mode, questioning Child Emperor. Child Emperor replied bluntly, you guys don't understand anything about him. Who knows, maybe he's a spy for another organization. Genos immediately fired back, if my master wanted to kill him, it would only take one punch to finish him off. Why would he need to be sneaky? At this point, they began using the process of elimination. Metal Bat was the only one who didn't drink, and the person who first discovered the body was also put under suspicion. Everyone learned that King was the first to see it. It turns out King went to relieve himself in the middle of the night and stumbled upon the scene. All the accusations piled onto King, causing the King engine, the fear motor of the strongest man on Earth, to start roaring. Combat mode was about to be activated. King now viewed everyone as an enemy. Just as the atmosphere was as tense as a guitar string, the lowly Storm Tatsumaki appeared and shattered the silence with her rage. She used her psychic powers, intending to blow the roof off the place. Right then, Zombie Man suddenly moved, turning the tables at the last minute. It turns out Zombie Man was so drunk last night that his system shut down, and he slept like the dead. He vaguely remembered that before falling asleep, a green light from Tatsumaki shone on him, and then he lost consciousness. A knife had somehow ended up stuck in him. Seeing Zombie Man safe and sound, everyone dispersed. Only one person nearby discovered the truth. The cause was that the night before, Tatsumaki had a low alcohol tolerance but was provoked by Saitama. She drank nonstop, got wasted, and played a prank on Zombie Man. The incident settled down, and Saitama could only chuckle at Tatsumaki's pathetic drinking ability. The only ones brave enough to threaten Saitama might be these three tough guys. It happened when the One Punch Man was going to relieve himself and accidentally ran into three people claiming to be espers. It turns out these guys couldn't become heroes, so they were mentally unstable and wanted revenge on society. Now, they wanted to give anyone who dared underestimate psychic powers a beating, and unfortunately, Saitama became a living target. Looking at Saitama's bald head, the three felt irritated. After a round of flexing their skills and premature gloating, they surrounded the bald cape. The leader of the group began to use his psychic power. A flame erupted, intending to swallow Saitama. This terrifying power made our One Punch Man pretend to be shocked. Seeing this, the other two also showed off. The small guy had ice powers. He raised his hands to the sky like a fool and shot out a few useless snowflakes that did absolutely nothing. What are you even doing? The third guy wearing glasses couldn't stand it anymore. His power was controlling wild animals. In an instant, 3 sparrows landed directly on the One Punch Man's bald head, scratching frantically, which only helped make his head even shinier. However, Saitama still stood motionless, which made the 3 furious. Seems you have some skill. The big guy unleashed his ultimate move, a violent explosion, followed by a series of endless comedic reactions. Saitama easily dodged it, and the fire caught onto his teammates instead. Everyone rushed to put out the fire, but their fingers caught fire too. The guy with glasses, like a fool, summoned a swarm of animals to put out the flames. Thus, after a while of self-destruction, the 3 idiots turned into roasted pigs. Saitama could only stand and watch with a helpless expression. What the heck are these guys doing? Seeing that the 3 were about to be well done, Master Saitama casually flicked his hand to save them. Only then did the 3 realize how weak their power was. When Saitama asked if they were his fans, the answer he got was that they didn't know him. They figured this bald guy was just some anonymous hero. This answer made Saitama's blood boil. Just as they were arguing, the ground shook violently. The city's sirens wailed. A strange creature emerged from under the park because humans had abused the land and poured concrete everywhere, leaving the earthworm monster with nowhere to live. This time, it rose to overthrow human dominance. A dirt wall tens of meters high was erected and then collapsed toward the people. But who would have thought Saitama only needed a gentle push with one hand to settle everything? Sensing things were bad, the earthworm monster tried to run, but Saitama was already waiting and sent it flying with one punch, cracking the ground. Genos heard the strange noise and came to the park. The 3 troublemakers luckily escaped death and turned around to discover in shock that an S-class hero was whispering to the bald man. Hearing Saitama mention that these 3 wanted to test his skills, Genos immediately switched to combat mode. But when he heard that these were his master's only 3 die-hard fans, Saitama's face lit up with joy. This scene made Genos incredibly jealous. Facing the 3's desire to become disciples, Genos warned that he wouldn't go easy on anyone with evil intentions, otherwise they might move in with his master, and that would be the end of him. Saitama, however, was worried about their pathetic abilities. If they ever met a truly strong enemy, they'd be toast. Thinking of this, Master Saitama decided to open a special training course to teach the 3 a few moves to level up quickly. The bald cape began rubbing his hands to warm up, and then a hellish training camp started, 100m sprints, push-ups, and sit-ups. Watching the scene, Genos, who was standing nearby, finally realized the truth and understood the secret of his master's strength. Under this high-intensity training, 3 troublemaker youths cried tears of frustration, declaring in unison that they wanted to go home to their mothers. 3 years ago, how did the god of war, Saitama, begin his path to invincibility? Everything started with the owner of a tailor shop. Back then, Saitama was still a handsome young man with a full head of hair. He wasn't strong, nor did he have anything remarkable about him. Saitama's dream was simply to become a true hero. Encountering a thieving frog monster on the street, Saitama rushed out to apprehend it. Although his martial arts moves sometimes looked rather disastrous, Saitama's will was always steadfast. After dealing with the monster, he went to his usual tailor shop. Just then, a thug was arriving to collect protection money. The shop owner saw Saitama's tattered pants and sighed, wondering which cursed child had caused this again. Seeing that Saitama frequently went out to catch monsters and returned looking like a ragged mess, the owner introduced him to a high-end combat suit. Looking at the combat suit that appeared somewhat unisex and extremely awkward, Saitama turned red with embarrassment. He immediately declined and tactfully explained that he was currently just an amateur hero and didn't deserve such a fancy outfit. In a luxurious hotel, the thug was reporting the progress of the money collection to the big boss behind the scenes. The more the boss heard, the angrier he got. Purely to satisfy a personal whim, he decided to seize all the shops in the area. Returning home, Saitama was truly unemployed, a literal king of minimalism. The guy was using his naughty hand to scratch his butt when a knock suddenly sounded at the door. The landlady came to demand rent, scolding Saitama relentlessly. It turned out our bald cape already owed 3 months of rent. The landlady threatened that if he didn't pay, he should pack his things and get out to keep the neighborhood clean. Taking the suit that had been repaired, Saitama decided to look for a job to earn money. He returned to the tailor shop and learned the situation. Due to debts he couldn't repay, the owner was about to have his shop seized by thugs. This also meant he wouldn't be able to fix Saitama's clothes anymore. In Saitama's eyes, this sky-high interest rate was clearly a case of bullying a kind person. Hearing this, Master Saitama decided he had to go and demand justice for the fabric shop owner. The owner knew those people were all seasoned gangsters and that the area was no different from a criminal paradise, filled with thugs and lowlifes. Guided by the owner, Saitama wandered blankly toward an apartment complex. A few unfriendly-looking guys decided to teach Saitama a lesson. However, through a series of coincidental events, Saitama ended up rounding up a large number of criminals. This scene left the thug, who was on his way home, stunned and pale with fear. He hurriedly ran back to report to the boss. After finding the mastermind, Saitama didn't say much and took action to eliminate the evil. To him, monsters were the true passion of his life. After listening to Saitama preach about morality for a while, the bespectacled boss completely lost his temper. Immediately, his body transformed into a monster. In the distance, the fabric shop owner had a bad premonition, but Saitama's righteous words had moved him. Looking at Saitama's back, the owner suddenly felt an extraordinary source of power. On the other side, the bespectacled man had turned into a pink monster that looked incredibly perverted. Called a pervert monster by Saitama, he flew into a rage and swung countless whips at Saitama. In the panic, Saitama's clothes were ripped to shreds again. That's right, after every battle, his clothes would vanish. When he heard the monster call itself a ladyboy, Saitama's eyes lit up. Wasn't this the path to wealth he had been searching for? At the landlady's apartment, Saitama brought the several villains he had defeated to offset his rent. However, the landlady couldn't allow the house to be rented as a prison for criminals. As a result, Saitama was kicked out of the house. Fortunately, the fabric shop owner pointed Saitama to an address in an uninhabited area. To show his gratitude, he gifted Saitama a combat suit that he had spent countless days and nights crafting. This was a suit containing all his passion, the masterpiece he was most proud of. He believed that only a powerful hero was worthy of this suit. In the owner's heart, Saitama had become a true hero. Returning to the present, Saitama told Genos his story on the rooftop. For the past 3 years, I have worn this suit and defeated countless monsters. To me, this suit is the most important thing. To study the secret of his master's strength, Genos decided to become a detective and began tracking Saitama 24/7. Here was Genos, stealthily peeking at his master. At this moment, Saitama was just sitting blankly watching TV. It was still that monotonous life, still that familiar bald head. Recalling the past where he had defeated countless monsters, Saitama still felt a strange sense of emptiness. This was the 4th day of Genos' surveillance. Suddenly, Saitama went to a shop. Could the secret of his strength be related to eating and drinking? Genos hurried to take out his notebook to record. Inside the restaurant, Saitama looked at the expensive menu and then at his empty wallet. Finally, the bald cape sadly ordered the cheapest portion of fries. It seemed our master Saitama also had times when he was dirt poor. Saitama muttered that he should probably find a part-time job to earn money, or else he'd starve. Looking at the plate with only a few scattered fries, the most important thing was the single longest fry that he liked best. Genos, as if discovering a hidden truth, wondered if the secret lay within that fried potato. When Saitama returned from the restroom, he was shocked to find that the longest fry had been buried, stolen, by someone. Because of a single fry, he had a heated argument with the waitress. In a hidden corner, Genos looked at the fry he had just swiped and muttered that his master's way of thinking was truly different from ordinary people. Coming to a restaurant and only ordering a portion of fries, it seemed this was indeed the secret to his master's strength. Looking at this extremely ordinary fry, Genos put on his detective gloves and began the forensic process. On the way back, Saitama walked while cursing, extremely bitter that his favorite long fry had been stolen. Which bastard stole it? Saitama suspected that a pervert was definitely following him. Angry, Master Saitama decided to lie in ambush right in front of his door to wait for the culprit. From above, Genos was still silently observing Saitama's every move, with a giant question mark in his head. What is Master doing? Just then, Genos received a phone call from Dr. Casino reporting the research results of the fry. Thus, he had to leave first. After waiting for a while without seeing anyone, Saitama suddenly heard a blood-curdling scream from behind. People fled in terror. A man's face was covered in a white liquid. Immediately after, his eyes dried up like a mummy's. A creature looking like a failed version of Sailor Moon appeared before him. Saitama's appearance caused the masked monster to have a flashback. It turned out that 6 months ago, he had been sent flying by a single punch from Saitama, and that terrifying memory was still vivid. Being fed humble pie by Saitama, his life's trajectory had changed 180 degrees. For the past 6 months, he had miserably searched for Saitama to get revenge, and while wandering, he had the misfortune of turning into a monster. The monster got angrier the more he spoke. Saitama, having sent too many monsters on their way, couldn't remember who this guy was. Seeing his arrogant face, Saitama immediately jumped to a conclusion. Ah, you're the pervert who stole my fry. In Dr. Casino's lab, Genos was seriously analyzing the components of the fry. The final result, it was just an ordinary fry. Out on the street, Saitama threw a punch, pinning the masked monster straight into the wall. That was the end for anyone who dared to snack on Master Saitama's food. In the end, this was still a bloody case caused by a single French fry. Looking at the sunset in the distance, Saitama once again felt the solitude of the strong. It's been 3 years and he still hasn't met a worthy opponent. Perhaps this is the price one pays for being a hero. Although no one cares, this is the path he chose. On the 5th day of the investigation, Genos finally arrived at Saitama's door, prepared to officially become his disciple and move into study. Just how funny has Genos been? When facing a gang of mobsters, Genos encountered the greatest threat to date, a story as long as the Ganges River. The source of this torture began when he went to the bathhouse with Master Saitama. This was the first time the bald cape got to enjoy a hot spring. Previously, because he was broke, he had no money to enjoy such things, so it had been many years since he had a proper bath. At this moment, the bald cape had an extremely blissful expression, while Genos and his master bickered over a single letter. After bathing, Master Saitama leisurely sat in a massage chair. Seeing Genos sitting idle, Saitama handed him his house keys. Returning to the present, this long-winded rambling made the mobsters opposite him boil with rage. It was all nonsense. The boss nearly collapsed. After introducing himself as Master Saitama's top disciple, Genos continued his non-stop talking mode. He talked about walking on the street with Saitama and seeing a hot pot poster on the wall, so the two discussed what to eat for dinner. Mentioning a promotion, Master Saitama suddenly remembered it was time for the supermarket sale. Thus, the master began searching frantically. When he found the flyer for the giant Napa cabbage discount, Saitama finally got serious. Perhaps the only thing that could threaten Saitama was a supermarket sale. Seeing so many deals, Genos and Saitama decided to split up. Genos turned on his golden eyes, scanned the surroundings, locked onto the nearest supermarket's location, and took off like a god. On the way, Genos happened to encounter a monster and conveniently dealt with it. But because of that, he arrived 2 seconds late and missed the discount. In his haste, Genos bumped into a cute girl, making her face turn bright red. This was certainly the first time Genos had done such a thing with a girl. When he reached the supermarket, it had finally closed. At that moment, he met a man, the very one being hunted by the mobsters. It turned out that after meeting him, the mobsters misunderstood and thought the man was Genos' accomplice. This left Genos bewildered. After Genos finished explaining everything, the mob boss was fuming. "You talked for 3 hours over just that? Is this guy playing with us?" Everyone pulled out their guns and began attacking Genos. Countless bullets hit his body but didn't penetrate his armor. Genos began to counterattack. Laser energy fired from his hands, one blast incinerated the weapons and turned the whole group into roasted pigs. Genos then took the man and fled the scene. Back at the house, Genos looked ashamed while Saitama was cooking. They didn't manage to snag a single supermarket deal. Seeing Genos' tattered state, Saitama expressed sympathy. Master Saitama, on the other hand, was happy as a clam. It seemed dinner would be improved tonight. And so, Master Saitama and his Genos began their romantic life as roommates. What exactly is the secret of Saitama's strength? After the battle, Bang, Silver Fawn, was shocked by Saitama's power. If he only used his water stream rock smashing fist, what would the result be? To find the secret, Bang also followed Genos' example and began investigating. Recalling that Genos called Saitama master, Bang seemed to understand the ambiguous relationship between the two. Ah, so they lived together. On the road, after Saitama dealt with a vegetable monster, the teacher and student discussed what to eat for dinner. This scene amazed Bang. Even through a single cabbage, such a strong personality could be seen. They truly could not be underestimated. Genos' talent made Bang think of his own vengeful disciple, Shiranko, but it was clear that no one was suited to inherit the water stream rock smashing fist in the future. Thinking of this, Bang decided to take action. He stared intently at Saitama's bald head. No matter how he looked at it, he only saw an ordinary person. Bang's gaze made Saitama extremely uncomfortable, and he eventually had to leave. Who is Bang to Saitama? And the answer regarding Saitama's invincibility only made him more determined to recruit him as a disciple. "Young man, I see your constitution is extraordinary. Why not take me as your master?" This old man was trying to steal a student right in front of Genos. The next day, Bang saw no sign of Saitama. Indeed, he had been stood up. So, he went straight to Saitama's house. Seeing a Saitama whose body was full of openings, Bang thought of 200 ways to defeat him. But when he saw Saitama unleash a powerful strike to save someone, he once again used grilled meat to lure the two to his dojo. At the dojo, Bang changed his attitude, wanting to show them the prowess of martial arts. He began testing the two. One punch from Saitama actually made him feel pressured. If you want to eat grilled meat, you must defeat me first. In the second round, Bang competed in speed with them. After Genos accidentally wrecked the dojo, Bang had to admit defeat. Next, Bang played a game of rock paper scissors where the loser gets hit on the head with a hammer. Unexpectedly, Genos lost repeatedly, his head getting hammered until white smoke rose, looking like a miniature Mediterranean Sea. Truly, the master and student are of the same kind. Seeing Genos' state, Saitama finally got excited. This time, the bald cape actually suffered a bit at the hands of Bang. After countless losses, his face glowed red like a hot iron skillet. After many rounds, Saitama finally won. Seeing Saitama's terrifying punch, old Bang, with his cunning, quickly dodged it. He admitted Saitama had won. Bang's true purpose through this competition was to show Saitama the essence of martial arts, but when he knelt down to express his sincerity, Saitama rejected him once again. He had absolutely no interest in martial arts. What caused the beautiful Fubuki to shed tears? Could it be because of Tatsumaki? At this time, the Fubuki group had surrounded a monster downstairs. A member stepped forward to attack, and immediately, the leader Fubuki arrived at the battlefield to easily resolve the crisis. It seemed the Fubuki group was about to become famous. However, the next day in the newspapers, her achievement was only mentioned briefly. This made Fubuki furious. She had always worked hard to hunt monsters, yearning for world recognition, while her older sister received all the attention without doing anything. Even a small fry-like stinger occupied a corner of the newspaper. Fubuki walked away in anger. On the train, Genos was also there, sitting near a Fubuki weighed down by heavy thoughts. The injustice made her unable to hold back her tears. That morning, Genos asked for the reason. Seeing an S-class hero appear, Fubuki was very surprised. Just then, Genos received an emergency notification from the Hero Association. An A-class criminal, a bomber, had planted a time bomb on a train. The time and location perfectly matched their train. If they didn't act, a horrific disaster would occur when the train reached the station. Both were now on a death train. Genos began evacuating the people while Fubuki used her psychic powers to get the passengers out. Genos jumped off the train, wanting to use his strength to stop the disaster. His body was pushed back hundreds of meters. Fubuki got the last passenger off the train and found the bomb, but a new crisis emerged. The train's speed was increasing because the speed limiter had been removed. Genos knew he had to go all out to stop it. With only 40 seconds left until the station, Genos prepared for a life-or-death battle. His energy was gradually depleting, yet the train did not slow down. Inside the carriage, Fubuki realized she could only use her psychic powers to contain the blast radius. At the decisive moment, a blue energy stream pulled Genos into the air. The ghost train changed its trajectory and flew straight into the sky. The only person capable of moving such a large object was that woman. In Fubuki's astonished eyes, Tatsumaki appeared. With a clench of her hand, the train was twisted multiple times and exploded in midair. Her energy minimized the blast radius to the absolute limit. The ghost train turned to ashes. Genos was shocked by her terrifying power. The arrogant Tatsumaki began lecturing her younger sister. Fubuki muttered, "It always ends like this." The appearance of her sister once again struck a blow to Fubuki's self-esteem. Was it true that every time she faced a strong enemy, she could only stand by helplessly? The little girl Fubuki saved on the train ran after her to say thank you and expressed a desire to join the Fubuki group. From the girl's eyes, Fubuki seemed to see her own weak image from years ago. It turned out she had been wrong all along. Being a hero was not just about chasing fame. Her future path must be to become stronger. She no longer wanted to be protected by Tatsumaki forever. The little girl's words resolved the internal conflict in Fubuki's heart, making her once again firm in her inner resolve. Why were Old Bang and Atomic Samurai facing off? At this moment, the two were fishing on a deserted island. After the Great War against the aliens, life had become peaceful again. Atomic Samurai asked about Bang's injuries. Day after day of quiet life could no longer stir their inner souls, both desired a greater battle. At this rate, our bones will probably rust away, Bang lamented about his old age, noting that running a few dozen kilometers now made him pant. Atomic Samurai, on the other hand, had quit drinking. If it were 15 years ago, he could have drunk for 3 days and nights straight. Thanks to quitting alcohol, his physical strength had increased and his reactions were sharper than before. Just his aura alone was enough to scare the fish away. On a nearby deserted island, Frogman and Muman Rider were tracking the giant footprints of a strange creature. Seeing people fishing, they didn't realize those were S-class heroes. Returning to the conversation, Bang asked about the injuries of Ian, Atomic Samurai's disciple. After that battle, Bang feared that Ian, a swordsman who lost an arm, would break down. But that was not the case, as Atomic Samurai's disciple, Ian was no ordinary man. After that defeat, he practiced even harder. Even with only one arm, he still wanted to develop a swordsmanship sharper than before. That is the spirit of Bushido. Hearing about another's excellent disciple, Bang suddenly remembered his own student, Garu. Bang once placed great hope in Garu, but now Garu was sinking deeper into the path of becoming a monster. Bang began to feel deeply saddened. At that moment, Frogman discovered the monster's location in the lake. He launched a punch, but was dragged into the water by the monster. Hurt and awakened at the bottom of the lake, the monster roared, making the surface turbulent. A vortex appeared, pulling the two men down. The next second, the monster revealed its true form and flew up, struggling. The two fought it relentlessly, and countless waves were kicked up. Bang and Atomic Samurai watched the giant wave ahead, their hearts as firm as a rock. Newman Rider was blown away. Frogman squeezed the monster's throat, but a second later, the monster escaped. Frogman was pulled into the air, the monster stood up and pinned him down. By this point, both heroes had failed. The water monster wanted to attack Bang and Atomic Samurai. Newman Rider fell but stood up again. He dove into the water for a justice crash against the monster. It must be said that Newman Rider's attack was effective, the monster writhed in pain. Bang praised Newman Rider's courage. Seeing that the old man was no match, Bang took action. With just a flick of his fishing rod, he created a massive vortex. The monster was fished up, and it furiously rushed toward Bang and Atomic Samurai. Atomic Samurai drew his sword and struck. With just one slash, he cut the monster into pieces. Frogman was rescued. The two heroes were astonished by the overwhelming power of the S-Class heroes. Atomic Samurai's mentoring ability was a bit concerning. Was there no one decent among his disciples? Bang bluntly said there was someone that formidable. Atomic Samurai asked how they compared to his own disciple. Bang's answer shocked him to the core. Facing Atomic Samurai's astonished expression, Bang acted cool and said he had met this person before, and Atomic Samurai would find out later. Do you know what would happen if Saitama gave just a slight sneeze? Under the guidance of the Hero Association, a group of S-Class heroes went to a snowy mountain to investigate frequent monster appearances. The freezing weather was truly uncomfortable. Everyone searched miserably but found no trace of the monster. Seeing the blizzard worsening, they decided to stay at the association's villa for a few days. Later, Saitama and Genos also got stuck there. What no one expected was that a bloody tragedy would follow. Everyone began assigning rooms. Sonic, who was training on the snowy mountain outside the window, discovered his arch-nemesis, Saitama. In this freezing environment, Sonic thought to himself that he would wait for Saitama to be alone before taking him out. But an hour passed, and everyone was still arguing over small matters. Sonic's willpower was nearly frozen, but he told himself he couldn't fall. His mouth said no, but his body was very honest. Saitama noticed the uninvited guest. When he woke up, Sonic was tied up. The heroes took turns visiting him, which shook Sonic's heart. After the tense atmosphere passed, the heroes returned to their rooms. At that moment, while Genos was taking care of Saitama, his golden eyes suddenly detected an intense energy reaction coming from the warehouse. Indeed, Sonic had untied himself and was preparing a sneak attack on Saitama. Genos' appearance made Sonic feel ashamed and angry. Sonic launched his shurikens, and Genos countered with his incineration cannons. Once the smoke cleared, the two had successfully destroyed the shed. The dust from the battle made Saitama sneeze. My goodness, the power of that sneeze was equivalent to a dragon-level threat, shattering the surrounding glass. Zombie Man, in the living room, noticed something strange and stood up to close the window. The next second, an earth-shattering explosion fell from the sky. The blast woke the heroes. What on earth happened? The heroes, with bewildered faces, followed the sound to the living room. They rushed to see, and what they saw horrified them. Under the flickering lights, they found Zombie Man lying on the ground, a literal corpse. Yes, this guy had been assassinated for the second time. Child Emperor, through surveillance, discovered that besides the people in the villa, no other strange creatures had entered. In other words, the culprit was among them. Conan mode began. Everyone analyzed the cause. In a flash, Zombie Man stood up again. Zombie Man recounted the scene. After the power went out, he only wanted to investigate the situation, but who would have thought that as soon as he flicked his lighter, everything blew up? At this point, everyone pointed their fingers at Sonic because he was the only villain and should have run away. Sonic hesitated and refused to leave because he wanted to prove his innocence. They used the process of elimination. Genos and Saitama were always together and had no motive. The other heroes also had alibis. Suddenly, Child Emperor seemed to remember some details. His random judgments caused the heroes to start suspecting each other, making everyone feel as if a villain had possessed and was controlling one of the heroes. At this time, the Monster Association had identified the identity of the monster on the snowy mountain and its attack method. It was only ice and had no explosive capabilities. Everyone was confused by the culprit, but soon a cold wind blew in, and Saitama sneezed again. The sharp little Conan, Child Emperor, quickly realized the truth. The explosion was likely caused by dust. When dry air is filled with dust and meets an ignition source, it explodes. Originally, the room was warm, but the battle between Genos and Sonic created a lot of dust, and Saitama's sneeze blew the dust into the living room. Because everyone was frantically using electrical appliances, they overloaded the circuit, causing the breaker to trip and the power to go out. When Zombie Man flicked his lighter, it triggered the explosion. This meant everyone was an indirect accomplice in this incident. With the matter cleared up, no one could face Zombie Man. A group of angry heroes had nowhere to vent their frustration. Just then, the snowy mountain monster broke through the door and barged in. Truly my son. Everyone sharpened their blades and rushed forward. A fierce battle ensued in the mountains, with the monster's miserable cries never ending. The abuse of the monster allowed the heroes to release their stress. Afterward, everyone turned to a bewildered Zombie Man and gave him a thumbs up. Puri Puri Prisoner is perhaps the only hero who stays in prison. One lightning-filled night amidst the ruins, a TV monster slowly rose from a pile of trash. In prison, Puri Puri was leisurely watching the TV news about the monster. At that moment, the monster was rushing toward the prison. Upon hearing the news, Puri Puri immediately became interested. Soon after, a large hole appeared in the wall under his giant fist. In the astonished eyes of the inmates, Puri Puri jumped down. Yes, as an S-class hero, he officially went to deal with the monster. The prisoners were used to it. For the big brother, breaking out of prison was as common as a daily meal. The only one who could escape from here was this pervert. After dodging all the guard posts, he found the monster. With just one swing of his punch, he knocked it down. However, this punch also affected the nearby high-voltage lines. At that moment, the short circuit combined with the invading rainwater caused an electrical fault. When the circuit failed, the power in the prison also went out. There was originally no chance, but now the exit and the power outage gave the prisoners an opportunity. A group of panting prisoners was eager to try escaping. When the power was restored and armed personnel arrived, many prisoners had already fled. Because his mistake caused the jailbreak, Puri Puri felt a bit guilty. A clever prisoner escaped to an abandoned warehouse. However, among them, prisoner number 3452 went out to find food and never returned. A subordinate ran up in a panic and announced that he had been caught by Puri Puri and suffered a cruel anal punishment. For their mistake, Puri Puri wanted to use his love to punish them. After a miserable scream, Sonic appeared before him again. Seeing Puri Puri's unsightly behavior, Sonic bluntly called him a pervert. After a few continuous jumps, Sonic vanished from sight. In their hideout, a group of prisoners panicked. If they were caught by Big Brother, they didn't know what kind of punishment awaited them. Thinking of this, everyone decided to surrender. Just then, the door was pushed open. A strange eel monster appeared before everyone and said they had entered its secret base. It was truly like catching a turtle in a jar. At this moment, Big Brother suddenly arrived to the rescue, and the monster was blown into the wall. Seeing the boys hurt and frightened, Puri Puri felt a bit of tenderness for the flowers. But those monsters recognized him. Wasn't this that naked S-class hero? Before the words were finished, a glow of light was emitted, and his angel form attacked. Yes, that naked man appeared again. Under the collision of love waves, a continuous combo attack began. A storm of fists hit the monster. Various attack poses, such as Luohan pushing the cart or rowing the boat across the river, made the eel scream like a stuck pig. After the smoke cleared, the monster was completely defeated on the ground. Was this truly the strength of an S-class hero? After the monster fell, Puri Puri wanted to punish the prisoners next. The subordinates trembled. In a final act of stubbornness, the monster stood up again. Even knowing the difference in strength, it had to fight for its pride, refusing to be defeated by this perverted hero. Even if it meant death, it had to fight. The monster's courage completely stimulated the prisoners, and they began to cheer for it. However, the eel continued to receive a rain of love fists and fell unconscious. The prisoners now had ringing ears and were muttering prayers for their own backsides. Puri Puri turned back with a smile and said, "Now, stick your butts out."